If you watched 3 Joker scenes back to back, something weird would happen. Same white face, same creepy smile.
No!
But it would feel like watching 3 completely different characters. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today. We're breaking down 3 famous versions of the Joker. Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight, the classic comic book Joker that's been around for decades, and Jared Leto's criticized Joker from Suicide Squad. Now here's where it gets interesting. Each one of these clowns runs on a totally different engine. Like, imagine 3 cars that look similar on the outside, but under the hood, completely different machines. One of them wants to prove something, one of them wants an audience, and one of them wants a throne. But here's the promise I'm making you right now. By the time this video ends, you're going to be able to understand the Joker character like never before. Just don't go on his side. And somewhere in this video, I'm going to reveal which Joker is actually the darkest of them all. And I'll tell you right now, it's probably not the one you're thinking of. Most people guess wrong on this one. When I finally show you why, it's going to make so much sense that you'll wonder how you missed it before. We're doing full clown psychology today, and trust me, it's going to be worth sticking around for. So let's start with something called the Dark Triad, which is 3 personality traits that psychologists study: narcissism, Machiavellianism, which means being super strategic and using people like chess pieces, and psychopathy. Every Joker has a different mix of these 3 things, and that mix is exactly what makes them feel so different from each other. Heath Ledger's Joker is heavy on the strategic side. He sets up traps and tests, not because he wants money, but because he wants to prove a point. He also shows that creepy calmness when everything around him is falling apart. But here's the thing, he's actually pretty low on the narcissism scale. He doesn't care if people like him. He literally burns a mountain of cash and says it's not about the money, it's about sending a message. The comic Joker shifts around depending on who's writing him, but the pattern is usually high on the not caring about others trait, mixed with a lot of showman energy. He wants to be the center of Gotham's story, especially when Batman is watching. Jared Leto's Joker leans hardest into the narcissism side. Image matters. Status matters. Being the king of the room matters. The director actually described this version as a modern gangster type, and that makes total sense when you watch him.
I could tell you meant that.
Now let's dive deeper into each one. And remember, keep your eyes open for which one might actually be the darkest. I promise, the answer is going to surprise you. Ledger's Joker doesn't talk like a regular bad guy. He talks like someone trying to win a debate. His whole argument boils down to this: people only act nice when life is comfortable. The second things get hard, all those rules go right out the window. That's why he doesn't chase money like other criminals do. In The Dark Knight, he sets a giant pile of cash on fire. He's basically screaming, "I don't want the prize, I want proof." You know when someone says they'd never cheat on a test, but then the test gets really hard and suddenly they're peeking at their neighbor's paper? That's what this Joker is hunting for. He wants to catch people in that moment when the mask slips. Even the opening bank robbery isn't about getting rich. It's designed to show how fast people turn on each other when they're scared. He calls himself an agent of chaos, but here's the twist that makes him so interesting. His chaos isn't actually random, it's planned. It's like a science experiment where he sets everything up perfectly, then sits back to watch what happens. The biggest example is the ferry scene. He puts 2 groups of strangers in boats and gives them a horrible choice. Researchers have actually compared this to something called the prisoner's dilemma, which is a famous thought experiment about whether people will make selfish choices when the pressure is high enough. So why do I call him the anarchist philosopher? Anarchist because he hates the idea that rules are real. Philosopher because he's obsessed with asking moral questions. He tells Batman that morality is just a bad joke and that people drop their values the second trouble shows up. And the creepiest part? He stays calm through all of it. While everyone else is panicking, he's almost relaxed, like he's genuinely curious to see what happens next. His engine is simple: break the system to prove it was never real in the first place. Now the comic Joker is the original recipe. He first showed up in Batman issue number 1 all the way back in 1940. But here's what makes him tricky to pin down. He's been written by tons of different people over the decades, so comparing him to the movie versions is like comparing a whole video game franchise to one specific boss fight. So how do we figure out who he really is? We look for patterns that keep showing up no matter who's writing him. Pattern number 1 is mystery and unpredictability. His real identity stays unknown. His mood can flip from goofy prankster to genuinely scary threat in a heartbeat.
Up away floors, a nice touch too.
Pattern number 2 is what psychologists call the trickster archetype. This is a character type that shows up in stories all over the world. The trickster breaks rules, mocks authority, and makes everyone uncomfortable by showing that the world isn't as stable as people want to believe. You know that feeling when you realize an adult you trusted was totally wrong about something important? And suddenly you're thinking, wait, does anyone actually know what they're doing? That's trickster energy. It messes with your sense of what's real. Pattern number 3 is the big one, the Batman fixation. The Joker doesn't just want to beat Batman, he wants Batman watching, reacting, chasing, struggling. It's rivalry mixed with something almost like need. In the famous graphic novel The Killing Joke from 1988, the Joker tries to prove that one really bad day can push anyone over the edge. And his own backstory in that story is kept slippery on purpose. Multiple possible origins, nothing solid. His engine is different from Ledger's. He wants the stage, he wants the performance, and he needs Batman in the audience. Leto's version in Suicide Squad feels like a crime boss who hired a really good designer. He's less walking philosophy test and more I own this place. Director David Ayer has talked about wanting a modern gangster Joker built for a world of nightclubs and intimidation. Even the look was meant to be a statement. Ayer later admitted the famous damaged tattoo was his idea and said he actually regretted it, which shows how deliberate and risky the whole branding concept was. So what drives this Joker? Status. He wants to be seen. Control. He wants to own the room. And loyalty. He wants people to belong to him. You know that kid who doesn't just want to win the game but needs everyone to say his name afterward? That's this Joker's energy, just cranked up to adult crime boss levels. That's why criminal narcissist fits so well. His image matters more than your feelings. His system matters more than your freedom. This version is less interested in society-wide experiments and more focused on protecting his territory and making sure everyone knows who's in charge. Leto himself talked about the pressure of following Ledger's performance, calling it perfect, and explained he tried to find his own direction. That helps explain why this Joker feels like a different species altogether. His engine runs on ego plus control. He doesn't just want to win, he wants you to remember that he won. Here's a sneaky trick that most people miss. If you want to really understand a Joker, don't just look at what he does. Look at how he sees Batman. Because the way each Joker treats Batman is like a mirror. It reflects what's actually going on inside their head. Ledger's Joker treats Batman like a moral opposite. Batman is the proof he's trying to shatter. That's why he doesn't just want to beat Batman or get rid of him. He wants to corrupt him. He wants to drag Batman down to his level. Because if Batman falls, if the symbol of hope and rules breaks under pressure, then Joker wins the whole argument. It proves that everyone is rotten underneath when things get bad enough. You know when two kids are arguing about something and one of them says, "Fine, let's bet on it?" That's Ledger's Joker with Batman. The whole city is watching, and Batman is the bet. Comic Joker treats Batman differently. To him, Batman is an audience and a rival wrapped into one. It's not pure hate, it's almost like dependency. Batman gives Joker's chaos a meaning. Without Batman watching, the performance feels empty. Some writers have even played with the idea that Joker sees Batman as the only person who truly gets the joke, the only one who understands him, even if they're on opposite sides. That's why their game keeps restarting over and over across decades of stories. Neither one can fully exist without the other. It's like having that one friend who drives you crazy, but you can't imagine life without arguing with them, except way more intense and dangerous. Leto's Joker? He treats Batman more like a threat to the throne. Batman isn't a philosophical partner or a soulmate enemy. He's just a problem standing in the way. The emotional spotlight in Suicide Squad pulls toward power, image, and his relationship with Harley. So Batman becomes part of a turf war rather than the whole reason for existing. And this is the key to everything. This is why the final reveal actually makes sense. The darkest Joker isn't always the loudest one. It's not always the one with the scariest voice or the most intense stare. Sometimes the darkest one is the Joker, whose game never ends. The moment a character enters a room reveals everything about their psychological architecture. With the Joker, this entrance becomes a masterclass in contrasting power dynamics. 3 performers wearing the same mask, commanding space in fundamentally different ways. Heath Ledger's Joker enters like a professor who has already graded your exam and knows you failed. There's no rush, no need for announcement. He moves with deliberate calm, each step measured, each pause intentional. The effect is immediate and unsettling. Everyone else in the room suddenly feels like they're standing on thin ice, waiting for it to crack. He doesn't raise his voice to dominate. He simply changes the atmospheric pressure. People lean away, hold their breath, recalculate their odds. His power operates through psychological displacement, making others feel like guests in their own space.
Oh, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm just gonna hurt you.
The comic book Joker enters like a vaudeville performer stepping onto his favorite stage. Even in moments of apparent stillness, you can sense the curtain rising. The room transforms into a theatrical set. The people become unwitting props, and the hero becomes the spotlight he intends to steal. There's an unspoken announcement in his presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the show is about to begin, and you're all part of it whether you like it or not. Jared Leto's Joker enters like a crime lord conducting an inspection. His eyes scan for the proper displays of fear, loyalty, and deference. The room isn't a stage to him. It's a throne room. If someone has forgotten the hierarchy, he wants that corrected immediately. His power is territorial, possessive, built on visible dominance rather than psychological manipulation. Same painted grin, entirely different kingdoms of control. Okay, here's the moment I promised. Most people point at Ledger's Joker as the darkest. He feels so real, so intense. But in my view, the one that can actually go the darkest is often the comic Joker. Why? Because he's flexible. He can become whatever the story needs. Silly chaos, cruel chaos, brilliant chaos, terrifying chaos. You literally cannot predict which version you're going to get. Ledger is a focused blade with one specific purpose. Leto is a shiny crown obsessed with power and image. But comic Joker, he's a whole deck of wild cards. And the Batman fixation makes it darker in a sneaky way. If Joker needs Batman as an audience, then the game never actually ends. It just keeps going, forever. That unpredictability, that shape-shifting, that endless need for his rival to keep watching, that's what makes the original Joker the most unsettling of them all.